Clara pressed her forehead against the cold airplane window as the plane descended into New York City. The sky outside looked gray. Heavy. Almost unfriendly. "Welcome to the United States," the pilot said over the speakers. Clara didn't feel welcomed. She felt small. Her stomach twisted with fear and excitement mixed together. She held her travel case tightly between her legs, the same case she bought secondhand in her hometown. Inside it were all her dreams. And all her worries. As she walked through the airport, people rushed around her. Everyone seemed to know where they were going. Everyone moved fast. Everyone spoke English quickly, like a river that never stopped. Clara tried to breathe slowly. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. But even her own voice sounded weak. The room she rented was smaller than she imagined. The walls were thin. She could hear her neighbor talking loudly on the phone through the wall. The window didn't close properly, and cold air entered the room at night. The landlord spoke quickly when giving her instructions. "You pay Friday. No parties. Kitchen is shared. Don't use too much hot water." Clara understood maybe half of it. "Okay," she said, even though she wasn't sure. She set her travel case on the floor and sat on the bed. The mattress was hard. The blanket smelled of old soap. Tears began to burn behind her eyes. "This is my new life?" she whispered. She wanted to call her mother, but she didn't want her mother to worry. So she wiped her tears and stood up. The next morning, Clara went to the language school. She walked slowly through the city. Everything looked big, bigger than her thoughts, bigger than her courage. Car horns. Police sirens. Buses. Tall buildings. So much noise. The school building wasn't fancy. But it felt warm. Students from many countries waited in the hallway. Clara sat quietly in the corner. When the teacher arrived, he spoke with a kind smile. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Mrs. Torres." Clara felt a little calmer. But then the class began. "Repeat after me," the teacher said. Clara opened her mouth, but her voice didn't come out. Words moved in her mind slowly, like they had to swim through mud. Other students spoke faster. Clara shrank in her chair. At the end of the lesson, Mrs. Torres put a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry. You're new. English takes time." Clara nodded, but her heart felt heavy. It was only day 1, and she already felt lost. Clara counted her money in her room that night. She had enough savings for 1 month. Maybe 2 months if she was very careful. Food was expensive. Her rent was expensive. Even her bus card was expensive. Clara held her head in her hands. "How will I survive?" She ate a simple dinner, bread and a banana. It wasn't enough, but she had to save every dollar. She promised herself. "I will find a job. I must." But she also knew the truth. Her English wasn't good yet. Her confidence was even worse. One Tuesday, the school held a language exchange. Students sat at tables, and volunteers came to talk with them. Clara almost didn't go. She felt too tired, too lost. But Mrs. Torres encouraged her. "It will help your English." So Clara sat at a table, holding her notebook tightly. A tall young man approached. Brown hair. Warm eyes. A gentle smile. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm David." His voice was calm, different from the loud, fast English she heard on the street. Clara tried to speak. My name is Clara. Nice to meet you." His smile felt like sunlight through clouds. They talked. Slowly. Carefully. He asked simple questions. "What do you like? Why did you come here? What makes you happy?" Sometimes she answered correctly. Sometimes she made mistakes. Sometimes she stared at the table, searching for words she couldn't find. But David waited. David listened. David didn't laugh. Something warm moved in Clara's chest, something like relief. For the first time since she arrived, she didn't feel invisible. That evening, Clara went to a supermarket. She wanted to buy rice, vegetables, and tea, cheap things that could last many meals. But when she reached the cashier, the woman spoke fast. "Do you have a rewards card?" Clara froze. What? A rewards card, the woman repeated, already impatient. Clara felt her throat tighten. "I don't understand." The people behind her sighed loudly. Clara felt heat rise to her face. She wanted to disappear. "No card?" "Okay, $18.56. Clara took too long searching for money. Her hands were shaking. People behind her whispered. "Why is she so slow? She doesn't speak English?" Oh my God. The words cut her like knives. Clara finally paid and left the supermarket in tears. She sat on the sidewalk outside, hugging her bag. "Maybe I am stupid," she whispered. "Maybe I cannot do this." That night, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hi Clara, this is David from the language group. It was nice talking with you today. I hope your first weeks here are going okay. If you ever need someone to practice English with, I'm happy to help." Clara stared at the message. Her heart softened. Someone cared? She wrote slowly. "Thank you, David. Today was hard. But your message makes me feel better." He replied. "You're doing your best. That's enough. And you're not alone here." Clara pressed her phone to her chest. For the first time in days. She didn't feel like crying. But the next day brought new problems. Her landlord knocked on her door. "You need to pay for the heating. Extra cost. Winter is coming." Clara didn't understand everything, but she understood the important part. More money. She nodded weakly. "Okay." When he left, Clara sat on the floor, legs shaking. Her savings could cover it. But then she would have even less for food. She opened her notebook and wrote. "I am scared. I miss home. Maybe I made mistake." The city outside felt loud and cold. Her room felt too small. Her courage felt too thin. She cried quietly, hugging her pillow. She didn't know David well. She didn't want to bother him. She didn't want anyone to see how weak she felt. But she also didn't want to be alone. She whispered. "Help me, someone please help me." She didn't know if anyone could hear. But the prayer felt real. The next day at school, Clara looked pale. Her eyes were tired. She hadn't slept well. When David walked into the room and saw her, his smile faded with concern. "Clara? Are you okay?" She tried to nod. "Yes. I'm fine." But her voice broke. David sat beside her. "You look like something is wrong." Clara stared at the floor. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not in front of him. But she whispered. "Everything here is hard." David didn't speak. He waited. She continued, voice shaking. "English, money, room, people, everything. I try so much. But the city feels too big for me." David's expression softened with empathy. "You're not alone," he said quietly. "Let me help you." Clara lifted her eyes. "Why?" she asked softly. "You don't know me." David smiled gently. "I don't need to know everything about you to care." Clara felt tears gather again. But these were different. Not from fear. Not from shame. But from something warm. From hope. As she walked home that day, Clara felt the world slightly lighter. David's words stayed in her mind like a soft echo. You're not alone. But life wasn't magically easier. Her money was still a problem. Her English still felt weak. Her loneliness still hurt. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life. With real struggle. But now, for the first time since arriving, Clara had a small light in the darkness. A person willing to walk beside her. A voice that made her feel less afraid. A hand that might catch her when she fell. She whispered to herself as she climbed the stairs to her apartment. Maybe I can stay. Maybe I can fight. Maybe I can build a life here. But she didn't know yet that the hardest part of her journey was still coming.